just jump right on into this line, cheating, stealing stuff. So
Stealing.
there is stealing folks' heart. There is a double. I got it. There is a double standard. Since we talk about
Sorry,
there's
giggles.
a double standard. If you want to talk about double standard, and I don't want to say men because there are women who do the same thing, but when it comes to men and women, men feel, and I'm just going to use this as a broad stereotype, and I know it's not fair. I just need to make this point, and then we can kind of dissect it. With the understanding, everybody's not created equal. Everybody doesn't feel this way. So that's my caveat. But men feel like it's okay for them to have multiple women, sleep with multiple women, be in relationships with multiple women, but then it's not okay for the woman to sleep with multiple men while she's in a relationship with them. The minute they find out she's even texting another guy, talking to another guy, well, now she's for the streets. And I think that's a double standard.
Okay. I'm not agreeing that saying men is saying it's okay. And when it happens, there should be consequences. When you're saying that men say it's okay to cheat, I believe it's the men that are in a biblical sense of how some of the stories in the Bible say that had concubines or whatever. They have so much finance and wealth that they can support those women. And I think nowadays, men think that they're in a biblical sense because they got some good D and they can't afford that. The men, this is going to be real bad for men be saying it, but the men that get caught cheating don't have the biblical clout like people in the Bible have that have concubines and that are expected to have more. So when we're talking about high value men that are that height of wealth, even have access to those kind of men, understand if it's a spoken thing or not, that they understand where they're at. Unfortunately, we start applying our average, when I say average, I'm talking majority of middle class relationships to the Beyoncés and the Jay-Z's and the people that are household names that have billions of dollars. And but unfortunately, they get held up to this expectation of they can't make bad decisions. Women are born with their beauty of whatever level, their beauty, their vagina, and their womb. For the things that women look into for a man/husband, we have to work for. We have to get a career, job, stability, money. We're not born with that. Y'all can be princess house daughters and go out into the world and be like, I want Colette. You don't have to do anything to be that beautiful. We look at what we're attracted to us and be like, hey, he got a stomach, but his status symbol, his job, whatever it is, we have to earn it. So that is the double standard. People are going to disagree with me with this, but we're not monogamous creatures, specifically men. That's a choice for us. We're not. Even when we're in our marriage till we're 80 years old, if something that walks by that we're attracted to, we're going to look at it. So, I've talked personally about our relationships where whether we were the ones or they were the ones that stepped out, and it's a discussion after that. There's a lot of relationships that we don't know about where there's an infidelity. Celebrities or people we know, and they keep it to themselves where they can handle it emotionally or not. They stay because of what is not just financially good for them, but the structure. And if cheating was so bad, it wouldn't exist. People do it every day. And whether if you get married under Buddha, God, Allah, whoever, it's a human fact. And so I'm speaking on what you said. We're not saying it's okay. We're just saying it's a normality that happens majority of the time. And then with that, there should be consequences between that person and the person they stepped out on.
The conflict for me is if I'm dating you, I don't want you dating somebody else. So that has to be established up front and in the beginning. It has to be an honest conversation on whether or not both people are willing to be exclusive. Let's just say you meet someone, they just might be dating around, or you might just be dating around. And there's nothing wrong with that. Where it gets a little convoluted is if once sex is introduced into the picture, that's when you need to have a conversation of, are we exclusive? But that's my perspective. Everybody don't feel that way. And I understand that everybody don't feel that way, but I do feel that way. For me, I'm not really built for I'm going to date you, I'm going to date you, I'm going to date you, I'm going to date you. But then I have to be careful with whom I'm trying to date because they may be into that. And there's nothing wrong with someone wanting to date and seeing who they like, because I may not be the person that they like or they feel more connected with. And that's okay. I just think those honest conversations need to be had earlier versus later to keep things from getting confused. And I don't think we have those enough. So
you went a lot around it. I'm going to bring it right here. The even playing field is a choice, just like it's a choice to say that we're committed. When you get married and devote yourself, God, whatever, you're still a human being. Most men that get married in their young 20s, most don't stay married because they don't have the emotional intelligence. There's 5 things I used to say that people should go through. I haven't said this in a long time. Fall in love, have your heart broken, break someone's heart, get cheated on, and cheat on someone. If you experience those 5 things, spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical, fall in the line. So most 20-year-old men, it's tough. The cheating thing can go all over the place. And women, they'll have their whole phase. Same thing with guys. They're going to have their phases. When a man says, I'm going to go get some whatever, right? And there is a double standard. When a woman says, I'm going to go out and get some D, it is not appealing. Women that do that cut themselves off from the wife level. They might make it to the dating level, but women that continue to be, I'm going to get me some D, they're not getting a ring. They're not getting a party called a wedding, and they're not going to get a husband. They may be phases of their life that they're doing that's fine, but as they get mature, not older, mature, and if they want to just be exclusive, great. And then even with men, there's when we start getting into those higher levels, you have to make a choice. It's not just like, oh, you're the only one for my life. Nope, I'm choosing that. And a woman is choosing that also. There's some people that are just going to be single and want to have various people the rest of their lives.
mm-hmm.
A person like myself, I want to have a family unit. So that's the end goal, to have a family unit. So even when you're saying, not in a relationship unless I'm committed, but you got to start somewhere. So even in the current events, whether it's true or not, whether Mrs. Harvey cheated on Steve, it's a choice. How dare us hold any pastor, president, celebrity, or your next door neighbor to the, I can't believe she cheated on her husband and wife. Why?
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that. Did she cheat on him? I don't want to miss no good gossip.
Yeah, you missing some. I meant to text you that before we got on here because that's the newest gossip.
No.
That Mrs. Harvey, Steve's wife, is filing for divorce, and she the one who stepped out on him. Yeah, I was waiting for this one. Stepped out on him and wants half, $200 million. Let me put this gun back in. See, because what we're not going to do is thank you, Mrs. Harvey, for showing that there is a double standard. Because even if you look at posts and comments like, oh, what did he do? So it's always going to be the same sexes defending themselves, right? And I'm going to get racial on this. Like, our black women are quick to chop us down. That's what he get. That's karma, whatever. Instead of like, yo, why did a good sister like that cheat on him? Same thing with us. I would say they're like, well, men do it too. But you don't hear men like, yeah, that's what she getting. Like, hey, man, you messed up a good thing. That's what men at my caliber like, are you stupid for messing that up? But if it's the other way around, yep, on to the next one, girl. That's what he get. And that's a bad stigma for us within the community. And since we are Black, African American, I'm going to talk about us.
Yes. Let me pick it back on something. When you talk about the caliber of people and how those people respond, I think that's where we need to kind of place that, because me as a Black woman, I don't easily just go and start putting our Black men down. So it depends on the caliber of woman and how she responds. I'm not going to say, oh, well, that's what Steve Harvey gets. So different types of women with different experiences, those are the ones that will be so quick to putting a Black man down, but not across the board. Every Black woman don't just jump on that bandwagon. Some of us really still come to the defense, of the Black man. But anyway, I just want to say that little piece. Go ahead, continue.
No, so even with that, I know that you specifically are not, and there are, but I am talking about that majority of that aspect needs to be changed to those calibers, because whether the caliber of you or them, we're the ones attacked. And this is what we talk about of dealing with the peace. We're getting beat up by police of all shades. So we're getting beat up by taxes. We're getting beat up by everything. So if it's a wife and we come back and we got somebody in our face like that, that's the peace part. Caliber of like you, which I spoke to, and how you conduct your podcast. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the sisters that look like you, that act different, that treat men differently. And I'm talking about the caliber of those men too. And unfortunately, there's a lot of men that be like, see, Steve Harvey, you wrote this book, you made this movie, you built this pedestal for your wife. Mrs. Harvey, she started off, he protected her and took a rap, went to prison, then had kids from him, then dated, married, and had a kid with his cousin, divorced him, and there's been overlapping, and then met Steve Harvey. You see what I'm saying? So, and if she ever sees this, and Mr. Harvey, I'm not calling her a hoe, but the phrase, you can't turn a hoe to a housewife, and you can't turn a street dude into a husband. I could change him. Oh, dog, I know she used to be all up on the football team, but no. You have to see the change and then grow with that person. And I'll stop there because the cheating thing is a double standard.
Men love to say that when a man sleeps with a woman, she's allowing him to conquer her, and that's what makes it different. You included, and you're not the only man that have said this, so let me put that out there. Do you remember saying that?
I remember saying that.
And you're not the only man that have said that and used it exactly like that. And no, it doesn't make it any different. The pain of having your man sleep with another woman is still just as painful. So men act like, oh, if she cheats on me, this hurts. I can't believe she did this. Like y'all whole world falls apart if y'all care about that woman and y'all find out that she's sleeping with another man. But then it's okay when y'all as men sleep with other women and we're not supposed to be just as hurt. We are just as hurt. It's not different. I hate when men try to make it seem like we're just supposed to be, oh, well, that's just a man. It hurts. It still hurts. It just as much as it hurts you guys, it's a violation of somebody's body, a violation of somebody's trust. The same betrayal that y'all feel, it's the same betrayal that we feel. I just wish men would stop acting like it doesn't hurt us if you cheat on us. It hurts very badly. That's why it just needs to be established in a relationship. Are we exclusive or are we not exclusive? And I'm just saying that broadly. For me, I don't really want to be in a relationship that's not exclusive, but that's just me. But I just don't like that being the double standard. And as far as conquering, it triggers me so bad to hear this word because, okay, women have been known to sleep with multiple people. So let's just go to this whole concept of conquering. What are you really conquering? Because if she's sleeping with you, she's sleeping with him, she's sleeping with them, and she don't really have feelings, she's just being whatever she's being. You're not conquering anything. You might be conquering some diseases, but that's about all you're conquering. So I think it's a man's ego to feel like they're actually conquering something. No, she's sleeping with him as soon as you leave. You haven't conquered anything. What have you conquered? To me, it's just a way that men feed their ego to make themselves feel like, I'm like the macho man. There is no conquering taking place. Now, if let's just say that this is a woman that you have wanted for a long time, and she's played hard to get or whatever, and then she finally gives in, and y'all make beautiful magic love together. That's conquering to me. Like you have conquered that woman. Hey, that's a feather in my cap. I've conquered the woman that I love. I've conquered the woman that I've been wanting and chasing. But you conquer somebody that everybody else is conquering? That's not conquering.
All right. So even what you're saying, how the pelvic works and all that, we literally enter you. We take over the womb. So that, when I'm saying conquering, that is the physical part. When you add in all the love and all that stuff, that's not what I'm talking about. We are the stronger being. Majority, we are the stronger being. And we release semen, life into you. It is a conquering thing. It's not, and everything you were saying, speaking, hearing it, listening to how you're saying it, it's the feed the ego thing that I conquered this. And that was in the context I was meaning. I was like, the physical context of that is yes. So, but what you're saying is even like conquering the woman you love, if anything, I think the woman conquers a man when that part happens. I'm being serious about that. But the conquering thing, yes, I stick to what I'm saying. It's not as far as the ego part you're talking about, but it's a physical, yes. Most men don't have the emotional capacity to take that pain. We don't.
But we don't either. That's the problem I have. We don't either. It breaks us down into so many pieces The same way it breaks y'all down, it breaks women down. We're naturally expected to, oh, well, that's just how it is and just be strong. But we're dying on the inside.
That's not, no, that's not what I'm saying. Let's say there's a woman, a family unit, and the husband steps out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what the children see, the mother got cheated on, she sticks around most likely for the stability in the family. And since that's been going on for generations, the reason I say men usually can't handle that because there is a difference. This is where you try to say we're the same. We're not, because our wives are a status symbol for us. That shows
Yeah.
we're done with the streets. And then when we get there, even when I'm saying it's humiliating for us, and then you come back with it's us for us too. It's discrediting what I'm trying to say about men. I'm not talking about women. I'm talking about us. I'm talking about how we feel. It is the most degrading, especially if we have gone out of our natural wiring to choose one. And I'm talking about in this scenario where the one person, the man, is sticking with this one woman. So now we're facing the stigma of we're supposed to be the cheaters, we're the bad ones, and now you stepped out. That's a double standard on top of the rare. And that's what it feels like a heavier foot to us because that's not the norm. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying, oh, you cheat. Well, you cheat too. I'm talking about when a good man doesn't cheat and the woman lies and cheats, period. But when you come back, well, man, women do it.
I'm just saying. But okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you have that one.
All
I
right.
get
I
it. I get
appreciate
what
it.
you're
I appreciate that.
saying.
You being a single mother have still raised your daughters how to be wives and your son how to be a husband. And same thing with a family unit that they're still married, that they teach or enhance those teachings to their kids, but they kick them out at 18 and then now they're out there twerking on the poles and shooting dice on the corner. I say all that to say is if we start raising our kids or trying our best to instill them to be husbands and wives instead of servants and independent women, we would go back to what we're supposed to be and have our family units. The TV version of the Huxtables, not Bill Cosby. God forbid we start talking about that. But when was the last time we seen a family unit? We have a lot of drama shows now. We show so much of the bad parts that we're talking about. TV shows, yes, those are examples. Unfortunately, we do idolize with celebrities and forget the celebrities, the characters they're playing. You know how many characters we know, but we don't know the actors' names? So when we have these characters that are just only drug dealers and cheaters and this and that, we've lost touch of our family unit. And unfortunately, our youths are not being protected because they have their own little devices at such young ages that we stop, not me because I'm not a parent yet, but as our culture, we stop being engaged parents. And then the reciprocal to that is if it's a single parent, man or woman, you're so busy trying to do everything, you don't have time to sit down with your child and take their phone to see who they're talking to or they're looking at. It's like, leave me alone. I got to go back to sleep because I got to go to work. Why?
Yeah.
Because we're one parent that's getting miserable and frustrated. But now there's no peace in the house. And the child will get used to that. I have neighbors where I hear little kids talk like grown adults to their older siblings, like a 5, 6-year-old. You better not touch me. I'll beat your MF. I was like, whoa, that's taught. That's taught. And that's from frustration from one parent. And then unfortunately, and I'm going to be sexist, when a frustrated single mother, it's screaming, yelling, and cussing. With a single father, it's drinking and fist. So even in a family unit, if they're both miserable, she's yelling and cussing, and he want to drink and fight.
Yeah.
And then that's what the kids see.
I don't know. Going back to television, the Housewives of Atlanta, the Basketball Wives, this entertainment TV. But it is so sad seeing those relationships and how horrible they are and how everything turns into a fight. Everything turns into a fight. Like we can't just sit and talk about anything. So yeah, the examples are not there. And that's why, to me, it kind of goes back to if you find someone that you care about and you want to try to build this life with, you really have to kind of figure out what's going to work for both of y'all because the examples are just not there. The examples are not there. Speaking of single mothers, let's get into Kevin Samuel's story. He gets some bad raps from women. I think for me, I don't disagree with everything he says. I'm not going to just say, oh, okay, he says all this stuff about women. Some of this stuff is true and it's coming from a real place, the way a lot of people think, male and female. So I'm not going to just dismiss everything that he says. I may not agree with everything, but he did say something one time where he was talking to this lady and she was talking about her being in this relationship. And then he was asking her how many kids she had and then how her friends wanted her relationship. And so he was asking, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are your friends? So she was like, they look okay. And then he was like, well, how many kids do they have?
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How many kids do they have? And so basically, his standpoint was that if they just kind of look okay and then they have all these kids, then their dating pool dwindles a lot. Many people would get offended by that. But let's just talk about the reality of it. For one, a lot of men don't want to date women that have children, even though men may have kids. And I even take it a step further. Some men don't want to date women that have children, as I've been told by a man that dated someone with children, is that you get attached to those kids as well. So not just, I don't want to date a woman with kids because that's a whole lot of responsibility. From a different perspective of, I've dated somebody with kids and I loved her kids like my own. Then when things went sour between me and her, she badmouthed me to the kids. And they were like my kids. And that was painful because I invested so much into these kids. So that's one perspective. Now, that's not every man's perspective. Some men just don't want to date a woman with kids because they just want that woman, not the kids.
Right.
So, I get that into each his own. Me, having been a single mother, the majority of my kids growing up, I was trying to bring someone into their life because I felt like they needed that father figure. And I really wanted them to have that because I wanted that family unit. I realized that a lot of times, even as a single mother, some of the guys that I dated was actually jealous of my son or acted jealous of my son. And that was really strange for me. And I come to find out, just talking to other women, they've kind of experienced the same thing. And so it goes back to a lot of men don't really want to deal with sons. In a podcast I was talking to a while ago, you take the male lions, they'll come in and they'll kill off the sons. Yeah.
It's testosterone. And it's not our bloodline.
That's not your bloodline. So it could go back to something like that in just the nature. But so we as women, we look for men that will come in and be a father figure to our children, but we're probably doing more damage by trying to bring somebody in our kids' lives unless they really have a heart for those kids. But it gets a little tricky, but we really can cause more problems by trying to create that if for some reason it didn't work out between, me and the father.
Actually, you said some things I've never actually heard before. The jealous of the son. And I was like, jealous of the son? When you brought up about the Lions example, and I was like, I can see that. My father was in my life, but he was married, his family, right? Still close. That's a whole other dynamic. That's the Caribbean side. We didn't deal with the stereotypical baby mama drama and all that stuff. My mom, stepmom, all good. But my mother they never got married, but they were together for a long time. So I had like a stepfather and my brother, still call my brother, even though we were never legally together. I was never an issue for their relationship. But I would say is a relationship like that with single mothers can't find the man. It has to be the man that finds the mother and the children. And unfortunately, the number of those type of men are slim. And according to where they're at, it's not feasible. When we talk about the Kevin Samuels show, like the women that are on those shows are the single mothers that want men that don't want them. Not just with the parents. They speak bad on their children's father. If you're talking so bad about the man that seeded your children, that's not a good look. And whether that's how you feel or not, I've never liked, even people close to me, family, I don't like when I hear it, even if it's true, but especially with the children around. Most time they're talking bad about them is about their relationship. Those kids don't understand the maturity of a relationship versus that's just their dad. This is daddy. So if all they hear is your daddy ain't this, your daddy ain't that, that's what that young girl and young son is going to see what men are like. The son either becomes that because that's his dad, and the young girls are going to be attracted to that most heterosexual people are attracted, not kinky, but are attracted to their opposite sex parent in some way, because that's what you see. Or the father figure or mother figure that was wrong. Usually it's a father figure because most kids are raised by their mothers. Let's be real, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I see it. So people's like, oh, what's wrong with dating a single mother? There's nothing wrong with it. But this is where women chastise men for having preference. If those men, if it's most, some, or all, that's my levels, that's what it is. And unfortunately, those single mothers of that specific ones that don't want to accept that and get mad that men have a preference. Just like young boys is like, hey, what's up? What? I don't like you. Look at your shoes. Women have preferences.
Yeah.
We choke it up and we move it on. But some women don't accept that men, we have preferences. We don't have to choose you. And not you specifically. We don't have to choose that. Yeah. And that's what he would talk about in the shows, is that the men that those women want have option of picking a woman that doesn't have kids and starting their own family. Because here's what a lot of people say. You don't just have the woman that you're probably trying to date, court, or love, marry. Then you have X amount of kids, even if it's just 1 to 5 or whatever. Then you have the father or fathers. You are in a relationship with multiple people. That's what some of those single mothers are deal with. It's like, and then when they say, you don't got to worry about raising my kids, they're there. And if a man does want to be in their life, most likely he wants to be in their life too, because they come with you. Yeah. So I've had kids cry when I left. It wasn't even a breakup, it was military. So that attachment is not okay for me. Someone who does desire to have a family and does like children. There are more single mothers than there are single Black men, statistically shown.
Yeah. Going back to what you was talking about preferences, that is valid for me. Now that my kids are grown and gone, I don't know that I would want to date somebody with little kids in diapers. You want me to start over?
Right. See? So what that does, that brings your preference even. So you think about it, someone like you, it sounds simple, but it's so difficult because it gets slim. You have to find someone that wants you, and the person you want has to want you. Yeah. So it sounds simple, but it's complicated. That's why there's booty call, dating, courting, engagement, marriage, because there's levels to it. You get to know if the person you're dating has the preferences you want, and are you able to give, or do you even have the preferences that they want? Because if not, it ends up being a one-way street and it's going to be a crash. Oh, pun intended. Damn it.
Pun intended. So kind of talk about dating and courting and all of this stuff. Now that I feel like a reset button has been hit in my life, and I get to kind of start over and right wrongs and do things differently and live my truth, as you will, and the things that I have just kind of wanted to do and wanted to be. Even dating for me is very intentional. I'm in no rush. I'm enjoying the moment. When I was raising my kids, dating for me was like, I want all of these things in this man, and I need him to love my kids as his own. I need him to be a good father figure. So it was was really dealing with how he was going to be for my kids as well as for me, but how he would act with them was huge for me, major for me. And so now it's almost like I don't have to rush into stuff. And I was rushing into marriages. I was rushing into stuff. And those are regrets that I have now. If I could do it all over again, I would just not date. I could date, but not serious with anybody, bringing anybody into my kids' lives until they were all gone. Now, granted, that's not necessarily realistic because it's like I do want companionship too. But if I could redo that, I would really do it very, very differently now. It wouldn't be about trying to get somebody into my kids' lives so they can have a good father figure, because that's really what I wanted for them, because that's what I thought that was best for them. I thought it was best for me to have a man in their life, because I felt like if they did not have a man around, that they would somehow end up with boys, because they only had a female. They only had that single mother, that they needed the balance between male and female. I grew up with that. I grew up with the balance of male and female, and I saw the benefits of having male and female in the household. So as my kids was growing up, that was a huge priority for me to have a balanced household for them. And
Right.
so I was making those rush decisions because I thought I found someone that met that and would be a good balance for them. But the balance would be me and him would have to get along. We would have to be good together because I really wanted them to see a positive image of a mom and dad. So he would still have to check off those boxes, and we would have to check off those boxes together that we're a good match for each other. But
Mhm.
ultimately, us being a good match was so my kids could have a good balance. So that's kind of
Hmm.
really what it was really about for me.
I've never
And
heard that. I
well,
never heard it.
yeah,
I never heard it so detailed. I don't know. I would have loved to see Kevin Samuels talk to you about that. That you actually were sure, because he'd be like, "So you're looking for a stepdad?" And he'd be like, "Yes, I'm looking for a stepdad first, and then me." We've never talked. I've never heard anyone ever say that. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I've never heard them say, I'm wow, I'm impressed slash confused because I'm so used to a person wanting someone for themselves, and then I bring them to my kids. You're looking for a stepdad. You're a good stepdad, and I like you. I'm not. Am I saying that wrong? Like was there an order
no,
or is it a
no,
combination?
you're right. I was looking for a good
Wow.
father figure for my children because I felt like
And
they were missing out because they didn't have that.
so here's a crazy question. Even though I'm all about the parent and you're in charge, did you ever ask them?
No, I just assumed that they needed that.
Yeah.
And what they needed is stability. And
And
I
even most
wasn't
kids won't
giving
even
that
know
to
what they
them.
need, but well, you weren't? How do you say that? Because
But
I've met them and they seem to be just fine.
thank
So what are you
you.
talking about? Financial stability, emotional stability?
No. Well, what I mean was that the relationships didn't work. So me trying to give them that stability of having male and female, a good household where they can see the balance of a good couple getting along,
Mm-hmm.
positive interactions, those things, dinner at the table, mom and dad there, what I was trying to give to them, those
Mm-hmm.
relationships didn't work out. So I still didn't give it to them.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that one of the reasons why they didn't work is because you didn't make sure you and him worked first. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's definitely fair to say.
Yeah.
Definitely fair to say.
If anything, it got in the way of them seeing that what you wanted. And that
Yeah.
goes back to what you and I were talking about a couple of weeks ago, probably a month ago, is we have a community and just people in general, we've gotten out of the order. And if it's biblical, so be it. But there's God, there's the husband and wife and children, right? And of course, there's everything between from meeting and all that stuff. So because we're on the world with technology, with equal rights, I think the system has been sabotaged where there are more women that have more access to positions and jobs and education, and everything. But unfortunately, they're still not making the amount that a couple would make. And they're trying to manage. And because now, like, I got my own bag and all this stuff, I don't need this. And they're trying to do the same thing as two people can do, it doesn't work. And when I even speak about, like, okay, even traditionally, we're not in traditional world no more. So there's more women with careers. Even the person I'm dating now, she's going to have a career and probably have her own income. Yes, I most likely will be the breadwinner. I've already have a career. I will try to keep that elevated. So when we start a family, the traditional way of you don't have to stress about going to some other place to stay home and birth a child. Animals do the same thing. You know, the lionesses hunt until they get pregnant. Then, all right, Mufasa got it. We are out of order. We have men doing women roles and women doing men roles in the traditional sense. Now, I'm not talking about all extremists from anything else. I'm talking about the things that we're talking about. And if we did fall back in order and lost our egos, we'll be all right.
Yeah,
Man,
ego is huge. Ego is a big issue in relationships. And I think that's why relationships are really not working. It's the egos
no.
on both sides. Oh, I'm not
Yeah.
going to put up with this. I'm not going to do this. Whatever. That's why the relationships are failing.
And two more
But
words like I need to bring back that we lost in Jurassic Park because we got to dig them up to find them. Um, and it goes for both men and women. Shame and accountability. You remember like the OGs and the big mamas, like there's no shame. I was flicking on Facebook for a little bit and went on to someone's post. There's more soft porn on Facebook than anything. There's no shame no more. And there's no accountability. And even men, there's no shame with how they dress to speak to women, to crime. Like it's not shameful to do anything. I do what I
Yeah.
want to do. It's my life, and I'll put these celebrities' names out there because they're out there. From the Sukis to the big sexy reds, their influence, not influencing people. Their influence is drawn in by people that shows that there's no shame. Same thing with the men, with the guns and the videos. Their influence shows there's no shame, and then there's no accountability as far as jail, prostitution, STDs. You
Yeah.
sure. Thank you for having me on here. We're showing people how to have a conversation. You speak, I speak. You speak, I speak. I think the biggest phrase that we're saying is double standards. So what I'll assign myself for some homework is to see which double standards actually do stand in society. One example is that the men pay for dates. The men is expected to beat up somebody if they call them a B word or whatever, which I have a discussion about that before, because it links into that whole Will Smith, Jada Pinkett, Chris Rock thing. We're expected to die for y'all. And the thing is, we will die for y'all. So if you want to take the double standard off, the things that we put in for you is that will not, you're going to hate this one, will not level off evenly what you are even able to do for us.
I agree to that. I agree.